Mon Kurian, going live today from Tiju Academy, Tiruvalla branch. Hope you guys are doing good, and let's start today's session with some tips for improving your speaking skills. So, this session namakku some tips nokam, some skills nokam that will help you improve in your overall speaking skills, and that's going to help you out in your part 1, the part 2 and the part 3. That is your follow-up in help you, your cue card as well as the warm-up, all the 3 starting from the beginning, right? Introduction we go in with the introduction, then the warm-up session starts, then you have your second part, that is your cue card session, and then your follow-up. So some skills that will help you improve, and these are some tips that I have collected from different sources, so that these are going to help you out in your future test. Ee maasam naale oru test varunundu nammade in Tiruvalla center. So these are the tips that I gave my candidates and my students as well, so that they go in confidently and appear for their test. So these tips will also help you if you are a beginner also, if you are in your intermediate level, and if you are also in your advanced level. These are going to help you from the beginning for your intermediate classes as well, and also for your advanced sessions. So overall idu ellarkum help you. So let's start with the first slide and see what all are mentioned there. So let's see, what does it say? In the lead up to the speaking test, make sure you take the time to practice speaking English with friends, at work, and on the phone. You should also consider recording yourself so that you are confident speaking English during your test. So what does this mean? In the lead up. So in the lead up to the speaking test. So that means that before you go ahead for your speaking test, for example, you have started taking your classes, ningal classes ellam thodangi. So before appearing for your test, what are the things that you can do that will help you? So make sure you take time to practice. I have said before itself, practice is the only way you can achieve your desired band score. So we all are working for the band score. Band score in a vendi aanalo nammal idu ellam cheyana ee 4 module, that is speaking, reading, listening and writing. So when it comes to speaking, make sure you practice. Aarde ude nammal practice cheyana usually 80% of the people, 80% of the candidates ഏതെങ്കിലും ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂട്ട് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഏതെങ്കിലും അക്കാഡമി അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഓൺലൈൻ ആയിരിക്കും അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഓഫ്ലൈൻ ആയിരിക്കും പ്രാക്ടീസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. ആൻഡ് ഇഫ് നോട്ട്, യു ക്യാൻ പ്രാക്ടീസ് വിത്ത് യുവർ ഫ്രണ്ട്സ്, അറ്റ് വർക്ക് ആൻഡ് ഓൾസോ ഓൺ ദ ഫോൺ. എന്താണ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുന്നത്? യു ഷുഡ് കൺസിഡർ റെക്കോർഡിംഗ് യുവർ സെൽഫ് സോ ദാറ്റ് യു ആർ കോൺഫിഡൻറ്റ് സ്പീക്കിംഗ് ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് ഡ്യൂറിങ് യുവർ ടെസ്റ്റ്. സോ ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്, റെക്കോർഡ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് സെൽഫ് കറക്ഷൻ നമുക്ക് ചെയ്യാം. യു ടേക്ക് എ ക്യൂ കാർഡ്, യു take a question, you answer, record yourself and check where you are lacking, where you are lacking behind, and you work out on it. So practice makes perfect. You have to practice. There is no go without practice. You are not going to get your desired band score. So make sure whenever you're practicing with friends, at work, on phone, or even in your institutes or academies, make sure you do it well, and so that you can appear for your examination confidently. രണ്ടാമത്തെ പോയിന്റ് എന്താണ് നമുക്ക് നോക്കാം. What does the second point say? Speak clearly and at a natural pace. If you speak too quickly, you may make mistakes or pronounce words incorrectly. അത് ഞാൻ നേരത്തെയും പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്. If you have watched my earlier videos, and then നേരത്തെ the videos that I done before, the live sessions that have gone before, I've always mentioned to my candidates, to all my viewers, that IELTS is all about speaking naturally and at a natural pace. നമ്മൾ അവിടെ സ്ലോ ആയിട്ട് അല്ല സംസാരിക്കേണ്ട, or too quickly അല്ല സംസാരിക്കേണ്ട. We should make sure we speak at a natural pace. Why? Because if you speak too quickly, ഒത്തിരി സ്പീഡിൽ സംസാരിച്ച, what happens? Because നമ്മളുടെ ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് കറക്റ്റ് അല്ല, right? And we may make mistakes and we may pronounce words incorrectly. Moreover, speed is the biggest drawback that I have seen when you speak very fast, especially during the cue card. നമ്മുടെ ടാസ്ക് കാർഡ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ക്യൂ കാർഡ് പാർട്ട് 2 when you speak very fast, what happens is you're out of your prompt questions. നമുക്ക് ഒരു cue card തരുന്നുണ്ട് and you have a couple of prompts that you need to speak about or sub questions. What happens if you speak too fast? You will finish all your prompts, ആ cue cardൻ്റെ sub questions എല്ലാം തീരും, and you won't have anything to speak about more, right? Because you spoke everything enough haze, nalla speedy samsarichu, and you don't have anything left to speak. So always make sure in your practice lessons or practice sessions, make sure you identify where you stand. Are you speaking very slow or are you speaking very fast? So namala pace, that speed in the space, the delivery, speech delivery, make sure you control it and speak at a natural pace, the way you speak to your friends, right? Nammal friends in a family or anybody you know, the way you speak at that pace. Don't try to rush, otherwise you're going to mispronounce, and you may be, you won't get that much time or ideas to build up in your mind. So make sure you speak at a natural pace. മൂന്നാമത്തെ ടിപ്പ് എന്താണ്, മൂന്നാമത്തെ സ്കിൽ എന്താണ് നമുക്ക് പ്രാക്ടീസ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുന്നത്? Practice the pronunciations of numbers to be sure that your meaning is clear. For example, many numbers can sound very similar when spoken. So be sure to say them correctly or clearly. Example, 30, THIRTY, and the number 13, right? 40 or 14, 50 or 15. അവിടെയാണ് കൺഫ്യൂഷൻ. വെൻ യു സ്പീക്ക് ടു ഫാസ്റ്റ്, നമ്മളുടെ പേസ് ഒത്തിരി ഫാസ്റ്റ് ആണെങ്കിൽ യു ആർ ഗോയിങ് ടു സൗണ്ട് 30 and 13 the same, 40 and 14 the same, 50 and 15 the same. So make sure pronunciation is correct. നമ്മളിത് സംസാരിക്കുമ്പോൾ പ്രാക്ടീസ് ചെയ്യുന്ന സെഷൻസിൽ make sure when you're pronouncing numbers, be clear, right? ഇവിടെ നമ്മൾ എക്സാമ്പിൾ, I have given up the examples here as well. 30 and 13, 40 and 14, 50 and 15, the TEEN, emphasize, right? 13 ആണെങ്കിൽ the TEEN, the last 4 letters. 13, just emphasize on the last 4 letters, 13. At the same time, when it's 30, 30, TY, and N varthil avade Y avarna, 40, 14. So make sure you're giving more emphasis on the last 4 letters when it's 13, 14 and 15, right? At the same time with 30, 40, 50, clear right namal pronounce ചെയ്യുക. So make sure whenever you're practicing, your numbers are clear, right? That's the third tip that I had to give you guys. Now let's move over to the next slide and see what can we do and what can we build in our English speaking sessions. Okay, the fourth one, it's better to use simple, commonly used vocabulary and to use it correctly than to use advanced vocabulary that you are unsure about. However, to get a high score, you must show you know how to use more advanced vocabulary. For example, നമ്മളൊരു beginner ആണ്, you just joined an academy or an institute, or you just started off online with the speaking sessions or with IELTS, right? As a beginner, start one step at a time, right? One step at a time. When you start speaking, right, for your IELTS speaking sessions, നമ്മൾ ആദ്യത്തെ നമ്മൾ വാം അപ്പ് ആയിരുന്ന at Tiju's നമ്മൾ ഇവിടെ എങ്ങനെയാണ് നമ്മുടെ പിള്ളേരോട് പറയുന്നത്, കാൻഡിഡേറ്റ്സ് നമ്മുടെ സ്റ്റുഡൻസിനോട് പറയുന്നത്, വൺ സ്റ്റെപ്പ് അറ്റ് എ ടൈം, ഓരോ സ്റ്റെപ്പ് എടുത്തിട്ടാണ് നമ്മൾ മുമ്പോട്ട് പോകുന്നത്. ഫോർ എക്സാമ്പിൾ, ദ ഫസ്റ്റ് ഡേ we try to make sure that you use common words and common vocabulary. Don't go deep into it. First, our words in the meaning അറിഞ്ഞിട്ട് ഫ്രെയിം സെൻറ്റൻസിൽ യൂസ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് ഫ്രെയിം ചെയ്യാൻ നോക്കണം. ദെൻ ആസ് യു സ്ലോലി അഡ്വാൻസ്, നമ്മൾ മുമ്പോട്ട് പോകുമ്പോൾ ട്രൈ ടു യൂസ് a little more difficult vocabulary, and as you go higher, when you have completed almost 1.5 months IELTS train ചെയ്യാൻ IELTS speaking sessions എടുക്കാൻ തുടങ്ങിയിട്ട് ഒരു 1.5 മാസമായി, then you go for your advanced vocabulary, right? So starting from the basic, in the beginning, if you're a beginner, start with commonly used vocabulary, and as you advance, try to increase your vocabulary, right? And I said before also, there are lots of apps that will help you out in this. There are some apps where you can listen and you can pronounce At the same time, those apps will help you give you synonyms for your vocabularies instead of saying the same word again and again. നമ്മൾ സംസാരിക്കുമ്പോൾ repetition വരത്തില്ലേ. So I have mentioned it before also. Instead of saying the same words again and again, make sure that you use good vocabularies as you advance over a step by step, starting from the beginning all the way to the advance before you go for your examination. So it's always good to use starting when you're a beginner with commonly used vocabulary or words, and as you advance, right, use better vocabulary or good vocabularies. Yes, this is a criteria for all of you, because most of the universities, ningal joliki povanengi, most of the agencies must have told you that higher your band score, the better universities and more chances of getting a better job. Adanallo. So if you are getting a high score varangi, you have to use advanced vocabularies, especially in academics type. Academic edukana pillarku advanced vocabulary aayirikkum vendiya, so that they can choose good universities or they can enter good universities. Okay, so now let's move over to the next tip or the point. What does that say? There are no right or wrong answers in speaking test. The examiner will assess you on how well you can express your ideas and opinions in good English. I have mentioned this n number of times before in all my videos. There is no right or wrong answers in speaking test, right? But make sure they are logical, right? When you speak, other logically samsarikkanam. The examiner is there to just assess you on your natural English. Ningal engane naturally English pronounce cheyunu samsarikkan, adu mathramana examiner avare assess cheyunu. So if you don't know an answer and you feel that you have said something wrong, don't worry about it. As long as your grammar, vocabulary, your fluency and your pronunciation is right, that is all that matters. So don't worry, ayyo tettipoi, am I right, am I wrong, am I going to say this, is this going to give me less scores, or is it going to affect my scores, then the scores affect you. No, don't worry about it. As long as all your 4 parameters are working, you're speaking good with your fluency is good, your vocabulary, your grammar is good, and your pronunciation is good, you are going to get a good score. So don't worry about whether it's wrong or right. Just make sure your English is good. So this only happens, ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്, practice is the only way that's going to help you. And make sure, if you are a beginner, ഞാൻ ഇവിടെ എൻ്റെ സ്റ്റുഡൻസിനോട് Tiju's Academy തിരുവല്ല I tell my students all the time, if you don't have a reading habit, വായിക്കുന്ന ശീലമില്ലെങ്കിൽ, always start as soon as possible. Better late than never, right? Because reading helps you a lot. Uttri pudhiya words namukku kandupidikam, and you can get the meanings of that word and incorporate in your speaking as well, in your writing as well, in your reading as well, in your listening as well, right? So reading is a very good way, right, to learn new words, new vocabulary, and there are many things that you can learn that will help you. In all your 4 modules, reading is going to help you, right? If you don't have a habit of reading, if you're a beginner, you're planning to go for IELTS, start from day 1. Innu thottu thodangikko, start reading, and it's going to help you. Start reading English newspapers, right? Start reading English magazines, anything. Start basic endinga cheriya comics okke eduthu adyam vaikkuva. If you feel that you're not good at reading, this is going to help you out in the future, not only for your IELTS. It's not going to only help you out for your IELTS, but it's going to help you in your daily conversation when you go there, right? You can speak confidently, fluently, right? Because you know what the meaning of that word is and how to pronounce that word. So you'll be confident, you won't be shy, you will not take a back step. നമുക്ക് when you go to a foreign country, when you go to an English speaking country, ഒരു foreigner is going to talk to you, you're going to talk with your colleagues, your classmates, right, your batchmates. So you won't be shy, you'll never go back step, you'll always be one step ahead, and you know what avan endha choichilenge enna ende question, and you know you can answer it, not only in IELTS but also in your day to day life. Fine. Okay, now let's move over to the next point. What does it say? It will help you to feel relaxed if you imagine you're talking to a friend. Remember that you're not being assessed on your opinions, rather on your use of English, right? So when you go into the examination center, yes, I know it's the first time you're attending an examination. നമ്മൾ അറ്റൻഡ് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ ഏത് എക്സാമിനേഷൻ, it can be anything. You are nervous, you are anxious, right? നേരത്തെ ഞാൻ ഈ ഇഡിയം എപ്പോഴും യൂസ് ചെയ്യാറുണ്ട്. It's said that butterflies in your stomach. That's very common. It's common, but make sure ഉത്തിരി നെർവസും ഉത്തിരി ആങ്ഷ്യസ് ആകല്ലേ. Feel free. Right? Just imagine that you're talking to your friend or you're talking to your speaking instructor, നിങ്ങളുടെ tutor, നിങ്ങളുടെ academy or അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങളുടെ ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂട്ടിൻ്റെ നിങ്ങളുടെ tutors ഉണ്ടല്ലോ. Just feel that you're talking, just think that you're talking to your friend or a relative or whomever you're practicing with, right? Don't get nervous. Once you're relaxed, നിങ്ങൾ relaxed ആണെങ്കിൽ you will not goof up or you will not make mistakes. You will be more confident. Only when you are tensed is the time when you try to make mistakes or commit mistakes. So make sure you just get relaxed and just talk as if you're talking to a friend or a tutor, and how the way you practice at home or in your institute. So if you're relaxed, the output is better, you will be more confident and you'll get a good score, right? Okay, so now let's move over to the next slide and see what do we have there. Okay, what does it say? Try to avoid repeating the words used in the examiner's question. Use your own words to show the examiner your full ability. Especially in terms of cue card വരുമ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് question വന്നു, paraphrase ചെയ്തു, don't say the same thing and start. And ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ I remember I did a live before where I told you guys about the cue card, the part 2. അവിടെ ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ടായിരുന്നു, just paraphrase the question without changing the meaning of the question and then start your answers. ഓരോ prompt 1, prompt 2 അല്ലെങ്കിൽ prompt 3, prompt 4 ലോട്ട് നമ്മൾ പോവുക. So, and do not repeat the same words used by the examiner. Use synonyms. I told you there are a lot of apps. ആ ആപ്പ് നോക്കിയിട്ട് ഒരു വേർഡിൻ്റെ മീനിങ് നോക്കിയിട്ട് അതിൻ്റെ സിനോണിംസ് ഉണ്ടല്ലോ. Use synonyms instead of repeating the same word used by the examiner or what was given to you in the question. അത് ചേഞ്ച് ചെയ്തിട്ട് നമ്മൾ സംസാരിക്കുക. And this will help you, right? This will show the examiner you have command or you have a good knowledge in vocabulary. Right, നല്ലൊരു കമാൻഡ് ഉള്ള പയ്യനാണ് he or she, the candidate has good command over vocabulary and you're going to score a good band score in your vocabulary part, right? Okay, now let's move over to the next and let's see what does it say. In part 2, the examiner will give you a task card and some paper. You then have 1 minute to prepare your answers. First, think about the topic and then decide which is the most appropriate tense to use in your response. You should use the same tenses as the question on the card. Fine. So part 2, if you're a beginner also, you must have by now know that how all the 3 sections work, or all the 3 part 1, part 2, part 3 engana, you know the basics, right? You have done the math. So now part 2 even if it's part 1 or part 3, I believe stick to the tense that you are given. If your question is in the past, make sure you're answering in the past tense. If the question is mentioned in the present tense, make sure you're answering it in the present tense. And if it's in the future, make sure you're answering it in the future tense. So tense also plays an important role, right? ഏത് ടെൻസിലാണ് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ കിട്ടിയേക്കുന്നത്, മേക്ക് ഷുവർ യു ആർ ആൻസറിങ് ഇറ്റ് ഇൻ ദ സെയിം ടെൻസ്. പാസ്റ്റ് ആണെങ്കിൽ പാസ്റ്റിലിരിക്കുക, ഫ്യൂച്ചർ ആണെങ്കിൽ ഫ്യൂച്ചർ, പ്രസൻറ്റ് ആണെങ്കിൽ പ്രസൻറ്റ്. സോ ദിസ് tenses, I said before also, practice ചെയ്യാൻ നേരം tell the person, ask the person who is examining you or who is with you, ask him or her, എൻ്റെ tense എങ്ങനെ ഉണ്ട്, how is my tense. And if they say that you are making mistakes in your tenses, practice you are, and then you will be perfect for your examination and you're going to get a good score, right? So tenses are very important. Now let's move over to the next and see what does it say. Try to answer as fully as possible and give reasons for your answers. This will help you to use a wider range of vocabulary and grammar, right? Especially part 1, that is your warm up brief ആയിട്ട് നമ്മൾ 2 to 3 or 4 sentences നമ്മൾ തീർക്കുക. That's no, I'm not consider, I don't worry much about the part 1 because part 1 is very easy for all my students that I've seen. അവർക്ക് അത് ഒരു challenge ആയിട്ട് തോന്നിട്ടില്ല. Part 1 is not a challenge. The part 2 and the part 3, your cue card and the follow up is the challenge, is what I see here. 99 അല്ല 100% of my students here, നമ്മുടെ ടിജൂസ് അക്കാഡമി തിരുവല്ല വരുന്ന സ്റ്റുഡൻസിന് പാർട്ട് 1 ഒരു ചാലഞ്ച് ആയിട്ട് ഇതുവരെ അവർ ആർക്കും തോന്നിയിട്ടില്ല. They all are very confident in answering the part 1 session, the warm up session. The challenge, അവർക്ക് challenge വരുന്നതാണ് part 2 and the part 3, that is your cue card and your follow up session. Why? Because in cue card you have to prepare and speak, and in the follow-up you have to give reasons for your answers, opinions കൊടുക്കണം, ideas based questions, like in general you have to answer, and it's wide in the sense you have to speak a lot on it, at least 5 sentences minimum നമുക്ക് സംസാരിക്കണം. Otherwise എന്താ വരുന്ന അവിടെ, the examiner is going to ask you why do you feel like it, what's your opinion about it, അങ്ങനെ ആയിരിക്കും examiner cross questions ചോദിക്കുന്നത്. So make sure when you're talking or when you're speaking in your part 3, your follow-up questions, you use a wider range of vocabulary and grammar rather than, because in warm-up you don't need that, it's specific brief ആയിട്ട് ആൻസർ ചെയ്യുന്ന പേഴ്സണൽ ആണ്. But when it comes to your follow-up, general ആയിട്ട് ആൻസർ ചെയ്യേണ്ടത്, there are more sentences, there are more of cross questions വരുമായിരിക്കും. The examiner is going to ask you why, when, why do you feel like it, opinion ആയിരിക്കും, ideas ആയിരിക്കും ചോദിക്കുന്നത്. So make sure you use a wider range of vocabulary and grammar. So this will only come to you when you practice. So as I mentioned before, practice is the only way that happens, and also learning from your mistakes. എന്തെങ്കിലും mistake നടന്നിട്ടുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ, if you're in your speaking sessions, make sure you don't repeat it the next time. So when you're practicing, ask your tutor or your friend or whoever is helping you with your speaking where you're lacking, and work on it so that you don't commit or you don't make the same mistake next time. Right, so let's move over to the next slide and see what it says. Answer in as much detail as you can. Don't answer yes or no. Try to develop your response to each question. Draw on your own experiences and give examples. The examiner wants to hear whether you can talk at length on a range of topics. This is for your part 3. ഇപ്പം ഞാൻ മെൻഷൻ ചെയ്ത പോലെ, don't be brief, don't be specific, just don't say yes I did it, yes I like it, yes or no. Be ready to develop your answers. Extend ചെയ്തിട്ട് സംസാരിക്കാൻ നോക്കണം in part 3, because it's very important. Part 3 ആണ്, see as I mentioned before, part 1 ആണ് they are going to judge you, and part 2 and 3 is where you are going to get your scores, they are going to mark you. So part 3 is important, because if you don't expand your answers and if you don't speak at a wide variety of topics, you are not going to get your desired band scores. So make sure whenever you are practicing, instead of in the beginning it is difficult, if you're as you increase, as the days goes by practicing, try to extend your answers. Right, don't just stick to 1 or 2 sentences. Try to extend your answers and try to speak in about different topics. Practice, but there are a lot of websites and there are a lot of material that you can get. Try to every day take 2 or 3 new topics and speak on it and practice. Okay, അടുത്ത നമുക്ക് നോക്കാം. Use the correct verb tense when answering questions in the speaking test. Listen carefully to the question and notice which verb tense is used. For example, if the question is, what kind of music do you like? Right, അതേത് ടെൻസാ നമുക്ക് മനസ്സിലായല്ലോ. What kind of music do you like? നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എങ്ങനത്തെ മ്യൂസിക് ആണ് ഇഷ്ടം? പ്രസൻറ്റ് ടെൻസ് അല്ലേ, in the present tense. So make sure your answer should also be in the present tense. I like listening to pop, metal, whatever is your genre of music. നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഇഷ്ടമുള്ള മ്യൂസിക് ഏത് genre ആണ്, you have to answer the same tense. Right, you can go on to use other tenses as you extend your responses. Example, I haven't always enjoyed that kind of music, but maybe I would love to listen to that, right? It depends. As you extend your answers, your tenses can change, but answer according to the tenses. For example, you don't, if he specifically tells you, do you listen to this kind of music? No, I don't listen to this kind of music. But yes, in the future, upon tensemari, in the future, if I get a chance, I would love to listen to that genre of music. So as you extend your answers, the tenses may vary or change, but make sure it is correct. So these are a few tips that I had prepared for the new beginners as well as for the intermediate level and the advanced level candidates who are going to appear for the examinations or for the tests. So I hope this helped you, and I'm going to meet you again next week with a new idea or a new topic, and we'll discuss the speaking part next time. So this helped you all. Hope this helped you all, and see you next time. Take care. Goodbye. This is Monkurin signing off from Tiju's Academy, Tiruvalla. Take care. Goodbye.